Hi there, this is the Idea Lab. Welcome to the channel. My name is Arthur. So what is happening on this channel is that I pick a random Zimbabwe business idea and disassemble it to understand its profit-making mechanisms. So to all you business buff and entrepreneurs out there, hopefully this process gives you a leg up as you consider your next venture in Zimbabwe. So today I'm considering a business which is an agribusiness which makes $6,000 every cycle, growing watermelons for the Zimbabwe commercial market. So the opportunity presented by watermelon farming in Zimbabwe is anchored in three main things I find. Number one is that there's a steady growing demand for watermelon, which presents a generally stable long-term market and price for this produce on the Zimbabwe market. There's also a favorable climate in Zimbabwe, which supports high yields and quality produce. There is also the fact that these are relatively low barriers to entry business with respect of financial and investment knowledge. So one can easily fund this business out of pocket without having to get a bank loan to bankroll the business. So I would put this in the same league as growing cabbages, which I've looked at this on this channel, green mealies as well, and even rabbit farming. All these are on this channel. So it's a relatively low barriers to entry business. Anyone can get into it. You just need to invest in some knowledge through research, even attending maybe open days at other watermelon farms, and just get started. Here's the business model. You identify a decent sized plot of land with suitable soils, suitable soil temperature, which the agronomists would call the heat units, and good water supply for irrigation. Watermelons are in many cases irrigated through drip irrigation. Plant and grow the most sought after watermelon variety as efficiently as possible following the watermelon GAP principles. GAP, which stands for Good Agricultural Practices. Then you harvest and then you sell the produce, aiming for the best price per head. So the selling can happen at the farm gate where the buyers will come to the farm, or you can take it to the mass market. Then you simply rinse and repeat the process. You grow in knowledge, you can even scale it and continue making profit. So the market for watermelons is quite strong, and here are some market dynamics to consider. There are, like all produce, there is price fluctuations that occur based on the selling window in which you appear on the market. These are simply demand and supply factors. In the winter, the supply is low, so therefore the prices tend to be higher. This is the period between August, September and October. Selling is at the farm gate, and because of the transport costs of going to the market, so you find that there are people who invest in big trucks, whether through hire or ownership, and they come around to the farms to pick up the watermelons. The mass market prefers large heads, and you're talking about 8 kgs plus. So the large ones can be as large as 20 to 23 kgs, but this is really not the norm. But they do okay and would fetch a higher price. So popular varieties on the market would include Crimson Sweet, which is typically deep red flesh and it's sweet. This is an OPV, meaning that it's an open pollinated variety, and the seed can be saved for use in the next season. You also have got the Keto, Baraka, Fahari. These ones are F1 hybrids, which are sold by particular or certain seed houses in Zimbabwe. So once as happens with other produce on the market also does grade the produce according to size and quality. So quality is very important as well on the watermelon market. Selling prices at Mbaremsika is between $1 and $5. This could be higher in other regions or even lower, depend on supply and demand. But again, when we do the profitability numbers concerning this business here in this video, we're going to use a different number, which I think is more realistic and practical, because you'll be selling at wholesale, so you're pushing a lot of volume, so you may not actually enjoy some of these numbers, but we'll look at that. So Bulawayo and other southern regions generally fetch higher prices. This is because watermelons are popular in drier regions of the country due to their cooling effect. So you're going to generally get better prices in Bulawayo than you would in other parts of the country, which are not as hot as the southern region of Zimbabwe. So the low-veiled areas of Zimbabwe anchor the market during the winter due to the warmer local climate. Common areas or regions that supply watermelons in Zimbabwe would include Chiredzi, Muzarabani, Mwenezi, Beit Bridge, Beatrice near Harare, Murewa, Mutoko, and Mondoro. Okay, let's look at how watermelon production works. So a hectare would take between 6,000 and 8,000 plants, and each plant would produce between 2 to 3 fruits. Each fruit would be between 8 and 12 kgs on average, depending on the variety. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I would put this on average at about 8 kgs. That's a good number to work with. So a hectare would produce between 60 and 100 tons altogether of watermelon, but you would find that most farmers are on the lower end in their 60, 70, 75 tons per hectare. The 100 tons per hectare would actually be exceptional in my findings because of what it takes to have this kind of numbers. So it is common for farmers to have beehives around their farms. This is important, extremely important actually, for pollination. So a hectare would need between 3 to 6 hives to just encourage pollination. These will be pollinators. Bees will be used as pollinators. Some farmers would also plant flowers around the field just to encourage pollination. So pollination is critical to the extent that you may actually have to hire to engage pollination services. This is from the beekeepers or the apiary businesses. They will bring their beehives and put them next to the plot or to the farm to encourage pollination. So to produce a hectare of watermelon in Zimbabwe, you need between $2,000 to about $3,000. I've seen some reports and writings which claim that you can do this for $1,500. But when you look into the numbers closely, for example, the fertilizer cost, you add everything up, including the agronomists and things like that, you'll find that this is probably not a practical number, which may actually mislead a new farmer. I think you need a bigger budget to grow a hectare of watermelon. So I'm going to work with $2,800, but production costs are between $2,000 and $3,000. Okay, so now let's consider the numbers. But first, we have to look at important assumptions that will guide these calculations and to lead us to a certain number of profitability. So assumption number 1 is that we're going to maintain that our production is on a 1 hectare plot. Again, if you're going to start with less than a hectare, you can always then work the numbers backwards based on what we're going to do per hectare. So we're going to assume also that 8,000 plants are going to go into that 1 hectare, and we are going to target 2 to 3 heads per plant. This is going to be important for the final price that we're going to sell the watermelons for. Okay, we're going to maintain that 8 kgs is the average size, which is going to be a large size for the market. We are going to maintain that $2,800 is going to be our cost of production, which is full absorption. In other words, everything is included in the $2,800, everything to do with production. We're also going to assume a 15% failure rate. This is important. Most new farmers, most prospective farmers tend to ignore these numbers, but they are a reality once you get on the ground. So failure is going to be due to disease, adverse weather, or the plants just not fruiting for no apparent reason, and also wildlife damage. So that is going to contribute to the 15% failure rate. So what we are saying basically is that on the 8,000 plants that we're targeting, we're already writing off 15% due to failure. Then we are going to have 90% peckout rate. Peckout rate is the percentage of harvested fruits that meet the quality standards to be pegged and shipped to the market. So we are going to leave that at 90%. So finally, we are going to also assume that the wholesale market price that will prevail will be $1.50 per plant. So what I've seen in the market is that for farmers, wholesale watermelons sell for between $1 and $2. That is the practical and realistic number that we must work with that I mentioned earlier. Of course, some data says at the market you're going to get $1 to $5, but when you're selling wholesale and thousands of watermelons, and you have got the buyers coming to the farm gate, you're not going to sell for those prices. So the idea is to put a more conservative number, which is practical and realistic, and that number is between $1 and $2. So I'm going to take middle of the road, which is going to be $1.50. That's why we are settling for $1.50 for our calculations. First, let's look at the effective plants. We are going to take the 8,000 plants that we're going to put in the 1 hectare field, and we are going to multiply that by the amount that is left from the 15%, that is the failure rate. So we're going to multiply that by 85%, so which is 1 minus 15%. And we are going to get 6,800 effective plants. By effective plants, we mean the plants that are actually going to carry on to produce fruit and be productive. And then with that, we're going to look at the peckout quantity, which is we take the 6,800 effective plants, multiply that by 90%, which is our peckout rate, and we're going to get about 6,120 marketable watermelons. Okay, so let's look at the total revenue. We're going to take the 6,120 watermelons, we multiply that by our price, which we determined, which is $1.50 per watermelon, is going to give us $9,180. So our gross profit there is going to be total revenue minus total cost, which is simply 9,180 minus 2,800, which is our cost of production. We're going to remain with $6,380 is our gross profit. So let's look at the production cost per plant. We're going to take the total cost of producing the plants and the total plants. We're going to divide 2,800 by 8,000 plants. So what's happening here is that in as much as you are going to have about 6,000 effective plants, for us to find the cost per plant, we have to divide that by the total number of plants we are going to to put into the field. This is because all the 8,000 are going to cost us something, okay, to grow, because the failure occurs at different stages through the production process. So we assume from the onset we're going to have a cost on all 8,000. That's why we are not going to use the cost on the effective plants. Okay, so 2,800 divided by 8,000 is going to be 35 cents per plant. So that's the cost per plant of each watermelon. So now let's look at the gross profit margin. We're going to calculate this by saying gross profit divided by revenue times 100%, which is going to give us 69.4%. So this means that for every dollar of revenue, the farmer retains approximately 69 cents as gross profit, which looks good. So this is how the farmer is going to make $6,000 producing watermelons in Zimbabwe. So it's going to be $1.50 per plant in terms of revenue generated. When we're doing these numbers, we are using per plant. We are ignoring the fact that each plant will produce 2 to 3 watermelons. We are saying that plant which produces 2 to 3 watermelons is going to make you $1.50. So basically what it means that when the buyers come to the farm or to the farm gate, they are going to check whatever is on the plant for $1.50. Okay, that's how we are doing this calculation. This is a conservative calculation, which means that you could make more basically, but we're trying to to do calculations so that we manage our expectations and we become realistic and practical concerning what actually happens when producing watermelon for the commercial market. So clearly this is a profitable business. Out of a 1 hectare plot, it seems very worthwhile. And if you do this twice a year, it's possible to do it 3 times a year, but again, to be conservative, if you do it twice a year, you're going to end up with at least $12,000 in gross profit. So to boost profit in this business is to aim to reduce costs, production costs. There are different ways that you can reduce the production costs. So you have to look at all the lines of your production costs and see where costs can be cut without affecting the production itself or the quality of the produce at the end of the day. So you can also optimize fruit production per plant by increasing ways of pollinating. Your yield could be lower because of poor pollination. So again, better pollination could also help to boost the yield and increase your profit. You can also target to reduce failure rate by, for example, securing your field. If your failure rate is high because of wildlife incursions, then you may have to, for example, secure the field, and then this will drop your failure rate and in turn increase your profitability. You can also increase your packout rate maybe by another 5% to about 95%. The packout rate for watermelons is between 85% and 95%. So you can find a more comfortable or a better space to occupy in there, which is higher than 90%. That also means a boost in your profits. Also fetch better market price for all or for some of your heads, of your watermelon heads. Let me say some, because it may not be possible to do all of them. So this could be through indirect and direct sales, and even better marketing networks. So for example, if a quarter of your watermelons are going to fetch $3 per head, for example, it just means your profits are just going to go up from the $1.50 we're talking about. So those are some of the things that farmers do just to try and increase profit. But the idea behind this video was to indicate the possibilities that it's possible to make $6,000 growing watermelons, selling them at $1.50 with a cost of production of $2,800. So I hope you find this useful, and thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon.